And now for the very last discussion or event, if you like, for Money 2020, we have something a little bit different and a little bit light-hearted. It's called Room 101, Dispelling Innovation Clichés. And I'm going to introduce you to the moderator, Vincent Everts, who's going to explain what that's all about. Vincent?
Yes, I am.
Yes, here he is.
Wow, what an audience. I'm so excited. Hello,
Woo.
how are you? I am so glad that you gave... I'm going to make sure that we have a bigger public. So I'm going to take this VR camera and put it here. And then basically I'm going to make sure that thousands and thousands of people see this thing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, who knows what Room 101 is? What is Room 101? Yeah, but where does it come from? TV. No, TV. There's a program called TV. Yeah, so there's a program called 101 on English TV. It also was for a moment in Dutch television, but we Dutch do not have any sense of humor. But Room 101, who knows it? Who has read here? Do you know? Has anybody read a book? Max. 1984, Max is from Ideal. He's from the Payment Association of Netherlands. We have something called Ideal, 65% market share of e-commerce in Holland, and they do about half the total amount of transaction fee as PayPal, and nobody knows about it. That's our fate as the Dutch. Okay, so that's 1984. That's a novel which you all should have read. You know, it was on your list, and you basically were... Room 101 was the torture room. It was the torture room which was underneath the farm, and all the bad animals who really did not want to participate in the grand elite were put in there, tortured to death, and we basically want to get rid of that. So, this is the 101 room, and we have 3 people, 3 billion people, yeah, you don't see that, who are going to argue something which should be buried in Room 101. So, can I get my panel to come up? And that is Dave Birch, who's a grumpy English old man. We all know him, writing a lot of books. Come all over. We have Ali Patterson, editor-in-chief from FinTech Finance, and Drew Graham, director of FinTech Strategy and Standard Charger. After this, he immediately runs to the airport and goes to Hong Kong. And he goes to Hong Kong for 1 meeting tomorrow afternoon and then flies back the next day. Is that commitment? Yes, it's commitment. Okay,
not
so
my
really.
choice.
Huh?
Not my choice.
No, but I mean, you do it. You do
Sure,
it. You
you do
basically work for these. You do what's necessary, and that's wonderful. And also, Ali, you basically are from FinTech Finance. Does anybody know the website FinTech Finance? Yes. Yes, she's on there all the time. What have you done? What did you organize?
Oh, we did the payments race. We had the 5 people on the big stage trying to get from Istanbul all the way to here using one type of payment. And I'm very pleased to say Dave has agreed to do the China race.
We're going to look at it, yeah.
What?
We're going to see if we can get to China just using cash.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and who won? So you had somebody with
somebody with crypto.
Crypto, and he had to go from where to where?
Istanbul, Amsterdam.
Istanbul, yeah.
Somebody with wearables.
Yeah.
Somebody with card, somebody with cash, and somebody using only their mobile.
Okay, I'm only interested, how did crypto do?
Crypto came second last, but it was tight across the board.
Okay, it was very tight. And who won?
Card and cash, joint
Cash.
first. Yeah.
And card, both?
Both joint
Both.
first.
And then how much points did they get?
309 apiece.
Yeah, it's 309, and they both ended at the same tank. So that's really fantastic because we can talk about these issues. So this crown is for the one who wins, because you're going to be deciding who makes the best pitch of something which should disappear on this earth. They all have they all have something they really hate, and they're going to argue their case. If you don't agree with somebody, we will run to you with a microphone saying that is a bullshit thing and you should blah blah, or you can support him, and basically at the end you're going to make a vote about who is going to win, and we do that with Slido. Okay, so get to Slido, and in the end you will make you'll make a decision and who gets this beautiful, fantastic crown, which I'm now putting on. And the subject which is argued the most against, which does the best job, will disappear in Room 101. Can I ask? And oh yeah, Dave Birch. Do I need to introduce Dave Birch?
No, get on with
I
it.
actually did that already. So, okay. Dave, could you
Yes, Vincent.
maybe come up with the subject which you're totally excited about to basically bury on this earth.
Yes. So my subject for Room 101 is the blockchain. I'm completely sick of the blockchain. It's completely pointless. It's unnecessary. People don't know what they're talking about. And it's become this kind of magic word. You might as well go and tell people we're going to solve the problem using elves. That makes as much sense. Or trolls if you're in Norway. So and that's how bosses, oh, the blockchain is going to solve these problems. So we have to sit through, I have to sit through things where people are saying, well, we're going to use the blockchain. It's going to solve the refugee crisis. I'm like, really? That's fantastic. How is it going to do? What is the blockchain going to do? Well, we're going to make a blockchain of vulnerable women that are being trafficked for sex. And I'm like, what? You're going to take the personal, and you're going to put this on a blockchain that anybody... can I find ones that are on my bus route home, for example? Would that be a potential use of this thing? I said, no, you're not taking it seriously. Because the blockchain is a truth machine, right? You've heard this, right? The blockchain is a truth machine. This is ridiculous. Nothing could be further from the truth. If I could persuade 51% of you that the world's flat, that doesn't make the world flat. That's one of the problems with democracy, Brexit. If I could persuade 51%, like just because the blockchain says something, that does not make it true. The blockchain isn't a truth machine, so what's the point of it? I don't know. You might as well use a database, but we're not supposed to say that in polite society. It's like hashtag me too, you know? And actually I can prove this. So here, my proof. So I was talking to this guy and he said, well, you see, the thing is the blockchain is immutable truth. It doesn't change. So, okay, give me an example of what you would use immutable truth for. And the guy says, well, sexual consent. This is a very big problem in the modern world, okay?
One of your own problems?
Not for me, although I have to say, you know, elderly Jews looking at attractive women in hotels, a little bit of a bad name at the moment, so got to ease off it a bit. But, so I said to him, what do you mean? Tell me this. He said, well, you know, suppose, you know, I meet a beautiful woman and we go up to the room together and whatever, and then we decide to have sex together, so we're going to record it on the blockchain. So it's I'm not making this up. This is true. He said we're going to record it on the blockchain, and then it's a mutable record of consent, and there can be no problem in the future.
It's one of the most fun things which Dave wants to talk about when he basically makes fun of the blockchain. Last year, he gave a presentation at the Blockchain Innovation Conference, and his topic was the underwear of Connie with IoT connections on the blockchain. So you're still on the same subject. Are you going to move further? Because we're almost done.
And you remembered it. Case closed. So the guy says, so we record it on the blockchain, and then we sleep together. We have an immutable record of consent. So I said to the guy, so you've never actually met a woman then? And he says, no. Well, he's seen pictures of them. He's read about it in books. He thinks this is going to work. The idea that you add the blockchain to a situation like that, and because you store things on the blockchain, everything's okay, that's what's wrong with all of this thinking. So I put it in front. If you use that example in your minds, that tells you everything about how ridiculous the blockchain is and all the applications they want to put on it.
But
that
Dave,
guy
do you want to say that the blockchain is nonsense because people think too much of it? They think it's too much of a solution, and it really can solve a lot of problems, except for the people you meet.
No.
Can I explain?
My point
or
is,
do you think it really is a shitty database, slow, lots of energy, and it's not useful for anything?
It's just a shitty database. And in that example, that guy shows, it creates magical thinking in people, which causes them to suspend all rational thought. You're going to record sexual consent on the blockchain, really.
Can I be the devil's advocate?
That is,
Yeah, I think.
that is,
Get in there.
it's an English joke. You have to understand it. If you're going to record sexual consent on the blockchain, that's distributed proof of jerk.
Okay, did anybody get that? I got that now. Okay. So, dear Spender, do you have anything in favor to say of the blockchain, or do you all agree on this thing?
I'll be the devil's advocate. Bitcoin, if we can talk about Bitcoin for a second, is kind of cool.
He wrote a book about Bitcoin, okay? Yeah. Beyond Bitcoin. He's way beyond that.
If we did a show of hands about whether or not Bitcoin is useful,
well, it's not useful, is it?
No,
I would imagine we would end up with a majority or a good few people that thought that Bitcoin was useful. Underneath Bitcoin is a blockchain of some kind. And so because you have one use for...
Who has who has cryptocurrency here in their portfolio?
No, no,
that's one thing.
He
that's
said
one thing.
He didn't say who has it.
I am the moderator.
He said who
I'm the moderator.
useful.
Who has crypto here in the audience? Can I have a show of hands? Okay. Who thinks it's a useful function, the Bitcoin? No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Case
Okay.
closed.
A few people. I'm being devil's advocate. I agree with you. We're doing it for the audience. So, because there was one use case for it, and that use case is useful, or at least a few people have it, it's a bit like arguing that databases are crap because some people use databases for stupid things. There's my first weak defense. A second defense.
Yeah.
It's my job to take startups and bring them into the bank, which generally means that there's very important bankers who think that they're far too good for the startups, and the startups who think they've solved every problem in the world, and I've tried and got to marry these two things together. Blockchain is magic pixie dust that I get to sprinkle over the conversation to get the banker to come to the table and not be an asshole. So for me, the technology itself doesn't matter, but the fact that I'm able to actually get a banker in a room to talk about technology with a startup, that was never possible for the blockchain. So for me, it's made my job a little bit easier.
So the blockchain is
Very good. You can applaud if you want to. Yeah, come on. Yeah, okay. Dave, you're losing. You have to come up with better arguments.
For bankers, he just told you. It's magic pixie dust. There's nothing to it. Put it in room 101.
Okay, let's then give the argument. We now have these wonderful databases, which we have in the back office, and they're just being moderated by nice people, which spends a lot of money, very intelligent people with very big budget, and they all do a very good job in working not together. Now, the blockchain is a tool which we all agree that if we put a record in there, it's there and it doesn't change. Now, it's maybe not for consent, but there's a lot of other things. Now, let me tell you, tomorrow, we're going to have somebody who was born in Syria, and he doesn't have any papers. What he's doing is putting refugees on the blockchain because he says the moment that somebody goes to the Red Cross, they verify their identity. That is, the Red Cross puts it on the blockchain, and it's going to be ownership of the refugee, and they can add all kinds of other identification for it. So he is basically working on that because he had the same problem, and it's not a centralized database because that's not allowed in terms of privacy.
But you're trying to solve a problem.
Well, first of all, it is a centralized data. You're talking about the World Food Programme in Syria. It is a centralized database. You know what I call a blockchain that has one node and a single organization that forms consensus? A fucking database. So you can dress it up with your blockchain magic pixie dust, Vincent. You're not getting away from it. It's going in room 101.
Okay, anybody anything to say before we move on to the second group of people? Because I'm really disappointed that after you being here, and there's a whole track, it was really interesting. PDS2 was completely filled up in open banking. And next door, we had the blockchain forum, and there was about half full. And I say next year, it's going to be reversed. Everybody's bored to tears.
It's last year's
Anybody
thing.
anything to say? No, you had your chance, Dave. You make your point.
I don't quite get what blockchain is, but it sounds amazing, so let's put everything. I've got a sore knee. Let's put a bit of that on.
Thank you very much. Ali, let me hear what your problem is.
My problem is, I mean, fintech is absolutely booming at the moment. The phrase I'm putting in is, as we move towards a cashless society.
Oh, I love that phrase.
Right. Two reasons I put it in. One, if you want to move towards a cashless society, I think this weekend shows that we've still got a long way to go, so don't just assume that we're going to be moving towards a cashless society. You've actually got to do stuff to it.
I haven't used cash all week.
But my gran does. Other people use cash. We get stuck in a bubble, and you've got to forget about the other people.
Ali, your grandmother is going to die. I mean, she's still there, but not for a very long time. So is that the only argument you have?
Friday is my argument as well. You looked around all of Europe, even with MasterCard still working, Visa went down, people went and started taking cash out and using cash for things because it doesn't rely on electricity. And I personally, I haven't used cash all week either. I don't like using cash.
Okay.
But other people like using cash.
So you're making this argument for all these other poor people who still like your grandma.
This is not an argument for me. This is an argument for the people that are not at this conference. I mean,
also, technically, he's wrong, because when the network went down, you couldn't get cash out of the machine because the stand-in processors were declining the authorizations on cash transactions as well.
We should be putting machines in there.
So facts, Ali, facts.
But if you couldn't use Visa at the petrol station, people still went back and got cash out.
Okay, well, I went to China, and I mean, I came and I had the RMB, and I had those things, and I came there, and they all laughed at me. No, that's a billion people. But so I go like, what is your point? Is it like it's going to be around for a couple of years, or it's going to be around forever, or what is your irritation?
I think it's going to be around for certainly our lifetimes. Maybe 100, 200 years time might be a different conversation, but at the moment there's an assumption that it will just happen. It will just become cashless. That assumption is, I think, fundamentally wrong unless we start actively making the systems so much more secure, more choice in the systems, so that if Visa goes down, well, hey, you can use something else. So that there's more to it. But there's that assumption that we're just going to go cashless.
Okay, who has a wallet still with, say, 50 euro in it? So who has that here? So we are in this audience, they still have cash.
But that's Amsterdam. People buy a lot of drugs here, Vincent. This is not a cross-section. It's not a cross-section of the population.
Do you know, okay.
That's true.
You raised a very, very good point there. Okay. Who here's done drugs?
Me.
Yeah, well,
Me.
Cash.
Yeah, I'm from Amsterdam.
people want to. There's cash. There is a use for cash on the illegal side. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but
Are you going to use arguments which Dave used in the first argument?
Absolutely,
Are you gonna get to that?
absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
we have the red light district here, and it's where WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, was invented. So that's
People
also
still.
pretty much a cash.
But you use
cash thing.
Bitcoin. You
Yeah.
just told us that.
Huh?
You use Bitcoin. You just told us.
Okay, Dave,
I invest.
if someone said to you, look, here's £1 million, I'm going to give you £1 million to go and run out the room right now, you would need to trust them. If they gave you a briefcase full of cash, well, hey, you've got the cash. If they said, I'll transfer it across to you with Bitcoin, it'll take a little while.
That is literally the reverse argument. I have no conceivable way of telling whether your bent Swiss 1,000 franc notes are real or not.
Yeah.
But you can't send me a fake Bitcoin. There's
If
no
you
such
believe they're
thing.
real, other people will probably believe they're real. And I think,
So that
probably
would be a great argument for Bitcoin. But if I send you Bitcoin, you really would know it's true. And otherwise,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so
and I would
needs a
immediately
blockchain.
sell it
Fantastic
for US
argument,
dollars.
yeah.
Which requires a
great.
blockchain.
Yeah, it is a blockchain which really is reliable. But okay, so cash, do you think we should, the cashless society should not be used, even though it's the biggest trend in the world? It goes, we're now at more than 50% cashless in Holland, and it goes down very, very quickly. Shouldn't we all go as a society to basically eliminate cash?
I would love that, but I think it would be a utopia, but I can't see it happening.
This is just hipster nonsense. He has vinyl records. He likes to make his own butter at home. He wants to keep cash. Don't listen to this sort of stuff.
Cash is democratic and sovereign. There is two types of money in this world. There is money that is created by a government which we vote in because we live in a democracy, and there is money that is created by the commercial banking system using fiat currencies. Anytime you use anything that is based on a card or a domestic payment scheme, you are not using sovereign domestic money. You are using commercially created fiat currency.
True.
We are giving away our rights, our birthrights as a human species, to oligopolies and giving them all of the power, and we're celebrating it by saying that we're going cashless to save a couple of seconds.
Okay, first
it
of all,
is completely ridiculous
Drew,
that we are not
and
voting
Drew,
on
but
best
building
interests.
on that argument, what a lot of
I know
people
I should
say,
be arguing against
I know,
What do you
but it's,
building on
it's
that
easy to
argument?
argue for.
the
That's-
central bank should start a cryptocurrency, so they are the
No.
ones
Yes.
who create money again,
Look,
and we have our
central bank
sovereignty
digital
back.
currencies, I'm
So
all
we
for
can
them.
only do that because of blockchain.
His tangential and irrelevant argument about fractional reserve banking is not a platform to build an argument about anything on. It's got nothing to do with cash.
Here's a very, very simple argument for why this assumption we're moving to a cashless society.
Oh,
We've just had cash come first in the payments race, going across all of Europe using cash faster than crypto, faster than mobile, faster than wearables. Cash is still about. It's in some ways sad it is, but people still want to
Didn't
use cash.
Cash draw with somebody else?
They drew,
Who did
yeah,
they draw
they
with?
drew with cards.
They drew with card. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Connie. Can I have the microphone here for Connie, who basically, where is he?
No, I
There
have
it
a
is.
question here because I love the whole digital space and cashless and all of that. But I think at the same time we always have to think about what's the fallback scenario if something fails. And when I was a young child, my father would say, if you want a civil war, just cut off the water and sort of collecting rubbish for a week, you have a civil war. I think today, if you would cut off the internet for a week, you'd have a civil war. And we have to have a fallback scenario of what values we can use to exchange when the internet or electricity is not working. And with the rate we're mining, we might soon run out of electricity.
True.
Can I just, like,
Luckily,
these-
tomorrow,
first of all-
tomorrow you'll be there at the Blockchain Innovation Conference, and we'll talk about generations of blockchain. And there's generations of blockchain which do 1 million transactions a second with 1,000 times less energy. So it's a very good point. But is it really a point to keep cash around for that opportunity? The moment that electricity is gone, we're dead in about 7 days. I mean, everything stops working, even though we have a lot of cash around. I mean, it's just incremental little, and it becomes less and less important, I think. Cash.
It depends what you mean by cashless.
It's a joke. I mean, it's
society.
less
you're
and less, but
arguing
never
dead
zero.
corpse. You're arguing
less
dead
and less,
corpse.
never zero.
A cashless society isn't a society in which there are literally no notes and coins anywhere. A cashless society is a society in which cash is irrelevant. And that society is just around the corner.
Oh, no, I'm
So-
not arguing with that. And when there's literally no cash.
So the idea that we are anyway going to stop doing it because of these kind of issues about disasters, well, that's fanciful. And also, by the way, in the biggest natural disaster I can actually think of, which is quite hard for me because I come from Woking, and our last natural disaster was the Ice Age, which was 13,000 years ago. But in the biggest natural disaster I can think of was the Japanese tsunami. It was the people who had cash that lost all their money, because people had cash at home. Their cash was washed out to sea. The Japanese are big cash users. Their cash was washed out to sea. The mobile phone networks were back up the next morning. So
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ali. That was the argument against cash. Hold your votes. You have this in mind. Who made decent arguments? I mean, I just think there can be a lot. Let's see what Drew's biggest irritation is.
Drew is speaking of Standard Charter. He's representing.
He's working at a bank. He's working at a big, huge bank.
Okay, I need to make something very clear here. I'm
If you
not
all can
speaking.
Twitter what he's saying in the name of the bank, okay? That's really, then you get him. Then you
I tell you what,
immediately can.
if you do that, the guy over there is going to be pissed off because I ain't going to be coming to no more Money 2020 conferences after this. I am not talking on behalf of my employer. I am definitely
weak
not talking on
argument
behalf
again,
of my
yeah.
employer. Indeed, I want to talk about banks that pretend to be customer-centric.
Oh, it's
Fake
cheating.
customer centricity.
You've chosen something that's actually going to win. That's not fair.
I tell you what I did.
No. What do you
we were
mean?
having a call.
What do you mean? Now, what is your point with these customer-centric
Let
banks
me,
and are fake?
Let me address Dave's thing first. We were having a call trying to decide what it was that we were going to argue about on stage, and I put a poll up on Twitter and put the 8 things that piss me off the most in this one. So there is a little bit of gaming the system involved.
Okay.
So banks pretending to be
A
customer-centric.
consultant can argue any kind of side of the coin, right?
Part
Yeah.
of the job.
Yeah.
Part of the job.
So, wow, where do I start? The entire idea that banks need to be customer-facing is a really relatively new concept. When digital came along and these things all started appearing in our pockets, suddenly the fact that banks needed to have a real-time connection through to their customers emerged in 10, 15 years ago, something like that, and now everybody's running around saying that they need to be customer-centric. If you go back to the history of banking, and when you start talking about goldsmiths, and when you start talking about the origins of actual banking, there was very little customer focus on all of this. You make all of your money by figuring out balance sheets. You make all of your money by being able to accumulate that wealth and then lend it out the back end. The customer centricity was technical in its very nature. Now we come to this modern world where it's been redefined by Apple and the iPhone what digital and therefore money and banking should actually mean, and now they exist in our pockets. Banks have underinvested in technology since the 70s. They've completely missed the PC revolution, they missed cloud, they missed open source, they missed APIs, now they're missing blockchain and they missed the smartphone. And now, as these smartphones appear in our pocket, banks are deciding that they need to be customer-centric. In order to be customer-centric, they need to be able to move at the speed of all of the tech companies to be able to actually give us what we want in our pocket. But they can't do that because they've underinvested for the last 30 years in all
They've
of the technology.
invested plenty of money. You just say they've invested in the wrong
They've
thing.
invested in the wrong
They
thing.
may
They've
have,
done
but
the wrong
there's who here's got a Monzo card? Would you say Monzo is customer-centric?
Yes.
Would you say it's called Monzo Bank? I would say it's genuine customer centricity.
What does the first word on there say?
Fake.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm
fake.
arguing for fake customer centricity. Or I can say incumbent, if we want to just take a large amount.
Incumbent.
This is the incumbent banks saying that they are customer-centric.
Okay, the
They are
19,000 banks which are there, they're all fake customer-centric
Yes.
because they really don't give a damn, or they cannot because of the technology.
Both. Number one, they cannot because they're underinvested and they can't keep up with the digital revolution. And second of all, here's a dirty little secret. Banks don't care about retail customers. Banks don't make money off retail customers. Banks make their money out of their corporate and institutional customers. Retail is just the icing on the top of the cake. And so when we talk about being customer-centric on a retail perspective, the banks can't do it because they haven't invested, and also fundamentally don't want to, because they'd rather put that money in making more money out of more fees, out of more completely inefficient ways of serving their corporate and institutional customers, which is in itself non-customer-centric. Final argument.
But it's very wise. It's very wise for them from a business perspective.
But then don't pretend to be customer-centric, because you're not. Final argument, if I may. The entire incentives based around banking are misaligned to be non-customer-centric. At the end of the day, it is a zero-sum game. I have $100, and I want to give my $100 to you to look after, and you want to make money. Every penny that you make is a penny out of my pocket. So the entire concept of customer centricity, where you have some kind of duty to look after what I'm giving you, is at odds with the entire way that the banking system and the banking fee structures are already created.
Okay.
Customer centricity.
No, I don't think
So, what does the panel think of this argument? Come on, you better
Well,
argue against it, because otherwise he's going to win, okay?
I
Because you
think
are so weak yourself.
I think he's right in one sense, which is not sufficient to win. But I mean, he's right in one sense, which is that a lot of this customer centricity is fake. Like your bank says they're customer centric. The average bank couldn't even tell you how many customers they have. My bank knows how many accounts it has. If you want to know how many customers it has, that's a completely different question. But he's saying fake. I say I love banks. Banks are very dear to me. Banks are very important to our society. They're very important parts of our social structures.
And
they really do want to
services.
be customer. They're honest people. They really do want to be customer centric. If you go to ING, ABM, and whatever, when they tell you they want to be customer centric, they're not fake. They're completely sincere.
Okay, but
They couldn't
the
tell you how
second
many
argument
they couldn't
was,
tell you how many customers they've
you're talking
got.
about the intent. He's saying they're incompetent because they haven't invested in technology. So
And I agree
everything when
that
they
there
say
are
they're
banks
fake.
that are customer-centric.
I'm not
ING
going to
and
argue they're
Monzo
not
are
incompetent.
two
Of
examples.
course they are.
I'm arguing that all banks pretend to be customer-centric, and it's the ones that are fake or faux customer-centric, the ones that should be put in that black thing over there.
Yeah, but I mean, what you're saying is,
I love a
what
catch-all
percentage
as
of
much
these
as the next person.
19,000 banks are fake customer-centric? What percentage?
I don't know. I think the number of banks that are truly customer-centric, we could probably fit inside that container.
Yeah, but you want to put all the other banks in there. And what do you mean you want to bury them? Because what you are arguing is that fake customer-centric, we all should talk about that. You don't want to bury it. You want to basically put it on a pistol and say it's the most important thing we should talk about, because all these banks are fake. All these banks are fake customer-centric. And what we're now talking about, a concept which you're going to bury and never talk. He never wants to hear blockchain again. He never wants to hear about a cashless society
I
again.
never want to hear about a bank that is not customer-centric, pretending to be customer-centric.
Yeah. So you basically want to say customer-centric. You want to get fake off and bury that, because there are no centric. There are no customer-centric banks.
Few. There are very, very few customers.
He's not using fake in the right sense of the word. There are certain there are certain circumstances where men like fake things actually, we don't care. I mean, that's a stupid argument. But the point about fakeness is whether the bank really believes it or not. And my point is, and I'm looking at one right now. Like I can even spot them in the audience because of the sincerity that's burning through their eyes. So
I can see all these people being totally sincere.
It's not fake customer centric. He genuinely does want to be customer centric. He can't because of his rubbish IT infrastructure, but he genuinely wants to be.
Yeah.
So do you think that the large platform players that want to come into this world to disrupt us all, the Amazons, the Googles, the WeChats, the Tencents, do you think that they are customer-centric? They are Amazon-centric, WeChat-centric, Ant-centric, Google-centric. Don't be fooled. They narrowcast us.
Yeah, I'm not going to do
But
that.
they're lovely. They're lovely to work
with
with. They are really so nice. I am enjoying them every day. These packages from Amazon arrive, and Google is really making me very, very happy.
For you, Vincent.
No, but I mean that's for billions of people.
But that's the
I mean,
other
I don't know.
argument.
The best interesting session we had was like on Tuesday. We had a lady of Alibaba saying, "I have 600 million clients, and they're gonna go up with 50%." And then there was the Google lady goes like, we have billions and we make them all happy. And then there was Samsung say, well, we sell all these phones and we make sure that everybody uses our stuff. And then we have Facebook who says, who talks numbers? You know, let's not talk numbers. And they only wanted to work together with all the banks to make sure that the customer has a nice customer experience. They were really genuinely saying, we love the customer, we want to work with you so we can give them a good customer experience. Were they all fake, you think? Yes, okay.
No,
Good.
but
Any more questions
but
for
that's the other side, because they are customer-centric. They're fake, but it is customer-centric.
It's fake, as long as we agree on that one.
Okay, fake. All the banks are fake customer-centric, but do they have to become fake customer-centric? Do they really, even though it's fake?
Wow, now we're getting into the other panel I did yesterday, whether or not banks actually need to be customer-facing or whether or not banks can actually just...
Oh yeah, I don't have time. Okay.
But we have 1 minute and 37
these are all
seconds,
the
so I
arguments.
don't think
You've
we can
heard
do
it. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your, can you pick up your phone, which forces banks to become customer-centric? We talked about blockchain. Actually, every time when we have cashless, when we have a cashless society, is it to fight crime? Because I mean, people, all the banks and all the central banks say that Bitcoin is only used to buy weapons and to buy
absolutely
to buy,
it's
drugs.
to fight crime, but it's the assumption that will just become cashless. That's
If you
what
could
I'm saying.
use Bitcoin to buy weapons, it would be useful. We've already established it's not.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to vote? And can Slido go to the question, who is the best, who is the winner? Who argued this case to get rid of blockchain, to get rid of the argument for cashless society, and who basically says banks are fake and customer-centric? Who won? Drew, 50, David. Paul, we're having a nice neck-on-neck race. Yes, yes, and David is going up. Oh, 43, 35%, 53. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, the suspense is killing me. Really? Come on!
It's the only thing in here that's not fake.
The best argument to bury blockchain. That is really okay. Let's give this guy a big hand. Come on!
I want you to take a picture of me putting it.
Put it on.
We have a picture.
Yeah. Can somebody take a picture? Connie, can you take a picture?
Pictures, please.
Blockchain is buried.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Yes.
Goodbye, blockchain.
Goodbye, blockchain.
Goodbye. It was nice knowing you. Ta-ta. You're the hula hoop of our generation.
It will never be talked about again. Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Now let me ask you, Dave. Tomorrow you're going to give a keynote at the Blockchain Innovation Conference. What are you going to argue? What is your big thing, your big idea?
Tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Tokens of the future.
Tokens are the future. Tokenizing of assets based on the blockchain are the future. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow at BIC and 18.nl, there's going to be a nice video from Dave, who's going to argue exactly opposite. Why are you so good in arguing the opposite?
I'm a consultant.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much, Ali. What's your next step? You're going to, you did your sport, your race.
I'm driving back to London tonight.
Flying back to London. And Drew is going on Hong Kong for one meeting and flying back on Saturday. Let's give these guys a big hand for their commitment. And thank you very much for coming to Money 2020, to the last session. We had great fun. I hope you have a great time going back. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, King.
That was really good. Amazing. I didn't.
Mystery.